So what is going on, guys? I'm Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about the storyline for Treyarch's next Zombies game in 2023, which doesn't seem like too long away now, considering that this is 2022. Well, of course it will come out in October, November time, so about a year and 3/4 away, but only about a year before we start getting leaks about it. However, we don't need any of that because we have seen from the ending of Black Ops Cold War, what happened in the final Zombies map on that game, Forsaken, that if everything goes to plan, not thinking back to the Chaos storyline, we also saw what happened in the final map on that game. We got a cliffhanger, so that would tell us that Treyarch's original plan was to carry on that story, however that never happened. We believe whatever Treyarch's next game is, the Zombies storyline is going to be a continuation of the Dark Ether story, what happened at the end of Black Ops Cold War and Forsaken. So what we're going to do is go back, look at that, look at what we are told, and try and figure out where the story could begin next year. So anyway, the story that was told within Black Ops Cold War took place after Black Ops 4. We all know what happened at the end of that game. Primus and Ultimus died, the multiverse was closed, people like Dr. Monty were banished to the Dark Ether. Black Ops Cold War then began, where even though, as I just mentioned, it is a continuation of the story in BO4, we rarely saw any mentions of anything from the previous storyline, because what Treyarch wanted to do was try and forget the old stuff and introduce a new story to us, but still connecting it back to what we knew. We had returning characters such as Samantha and Eddie, or Richtofen as you might know him as. A ton of different events were told in the Cold War Zombie storyline. We were introduced to loads of new characters, Dr. Peck, Gorov, Valentina, along with other people that we are more familiar with, Kravchenko for example. But what took place in the final map, Forsaken, especially that ending cutscene, is what's important, and it's that what's gonna tell us what we could potentially be seeing in the next Zombies game, so let's go through it. So the whole point of the Cold War Zombie storyline, the major plot was for our characters, Requiem and Omega, to help bring a person called Zykov back from the Dark Ether. He became trapped there back in the 40s, we saw that happen in the D-Machine intro cutscene, and basically our mission was to extract him from the Dark Ether, and in return he would give us information on how to stop someone called the Forsaken. The Forsaken is an entity or an elder god within the Dark Ether. This guy had been going rampant in there, killing all of the other elder gods, creating an army of the undead and threatening to consume our world, Earth. Zykov from within the Dark Ether made communications to us telling us that he could help us stop him. He knew how because he was in the Dark Ether with the Forsaken, so he knew more about him than we did. Anyway, in the last map, when we do finally extract Zykov, we see he takes off his mask and suddenly he transforms into the Forsaken. Unknowingly, our characters helped the Forsaken to escape the Dark Ether. We know one of the Forsaken's abilities was he could turn himself into anyone he consumed, so we figured out he must have consumed Zykov, pretended to be him, and used our characters, manipulated them into helping him escape the Dark Ether, and that's exactly what happened. However, it seems his plan didn't go completely as expected, because after a long fought battle between him and Requiem, we eventually contain him inside of this device, but this wouldn't have been possible without Samantha sacrificing herself, plunging herself into the Dark Ether, into the Forsaken. This left Samantha now trapped in the Dark Ether and the Forsaken contained, and that's where we see this ending cutscene kicks in. On the computer screen in front of Weaver, he is informed that all of the outbreak zones around the world are now collapsing due to Samantha sacrificing herself and the capturing of the Forsaken. Requiem's mission was complete. We see this device with the Forsaken in being transported away. Then on the computer screen in front of the director, who was Richtofen, he has written down, "The entity is acquired, all breaches sealed, Maxis is locked within the Dark Ether. She is no longer a problem for Project Janus. Divert strike team to Black Site 13 for indefinite containment. I will shut down Requiem. Our agents can move on Weaver and the rest." We then see all of our Requiem characters getting arrested. Dr. Grey, Carver, Strauss, Weaver, they're all taken to Black Site 13 for indefinite containment. And then Richtofen stands up as he walks out of the room, and in the final scene, we see this hut, a man walk in with his hood up. He tells this person he needs to rent a boat, and it is revealed that this person is Dr. Peck. And that was the cliffhanger that we were left on, wondering, where is Peck going? Who is he trying to find? Also leaving us a bunch of other questions. In Treyarch's next game for the continuation of this story, not only are we asking, where is Peck going? What is he up to? But also, what is going to happen to the Forsaken now that it is contained? What is going to happen to Requiem now that they've been locked up indefinitely by Richtofen? That then brings us to ask, well, why did Richtofen betray Requiem? Why did he lock them up? Why did he want Samantha out of the way? Why isn't he bothered that she's now trapped in the Doorkeeper? What is this Project Janus he's speaking of? Another question is, well, what will now become of Samantha now that she's trapped in the Doorkeeper? We know what happens to other people trapped in there for a long time. They end up changing, even though Samantha has been in there before. If she ends up being trapped in there for a long time, could she end up changing? And the other question is, what happened to Kravchenko? There are so many questions, so many cliffhangers we have been left on, so many different routes Treyarch could go down for the next story, but there are a few here that we can answer. The first one, what happened to Kravchenko? Well, the last time we saw him in Forsaken, if you do the main Easter egg, in one of the steps you will hear Kravchenko and Dr. Peck get locked inside of a room, you hear them shooting the zombies, and then all of a sudden there is a gas explosion, and that's it. Contact from them is cut off. Now, if you weren't to carry on the Easter egg and get this ending, you would assume that this explosion killed both Peck and Kravchenko, but since we've seen that Peck survived, that then leaves speculation for Kravchenko. Did he survive the explosion like Peck, or did he die? Since we never heard from him, we don't know. I think just because Kravchenko was such a big character, I can't see Treyarch killing him off, so what I think is going to happen is in their next game, somewhere along the line, maybe halfway through or towards the end, they'll have him show up. They probably want us to think he's dead, but halfway through their next story, I think he's going to pop up somewhere, so I don't think Kravchenko's dead. Okay, so well, what about Samantha then? Will she be in the next game? Well, at this point, as I mentioned, she's trapped within the Dark Ether. The only difference is though, as you saw from Weaver's computer screens, all of the breaches around the world are now being sealed. So unlike before where in Firebase C we extracted her from the Dark Ether, there's now no way for her to escape. This end sequence where we see Peck in Japan takes place 5 years later, 5 years after Sam became trapped in the Dark Ether, so assuming she's been trapped in there since then, and she's still in there now, and also because time within the Dark Ether works differently, I would say if she hadn't been in there before, that more than likely she would have changed into either a zombie or a mimic, a creature of the Dark Ether, or she would be dead. However, because of her spending time in there previously, and her not changing like other people have, there is all the chance that Samantha could still be in the Dark Ether and could still look relatively normal, besides from, you know, her magical powers, and that's even if she's still trapped in there. She could have escaped in this time, she could be dead, we don't know. That's just another cliffhanger. So because Samantha is such a big character, again, I don't think they're going to kill her off. In fact, that's not going to happen. So either she's already escaped or she's still trapped in there, which then leaves us with either she's still the same person or she's changed. The next question, what about Requiem? Not only us, the playable characters, but also Weaver, Carver, Gray, Strauss, everyone we saw get arrested. Well, Richtofen did say they were going to be locked up indefinitely at Black Site 13, but take a listen to what the Forsaken told us in the boss fight.
Throwing Molotov.
You are so eager to stop me. Would you like to see how that story ends? Gaze upon the future that awaits you, should you defeat me.
Leave Sam alone!
He warned us that should we defeat him, which we did, that is what the future for our crew looks like. And he showed us Weaver and the rest lying dead in a prison cell. The Forsaken warned us that would happen if we defeated him, and what did we do? We defeated him, contained him, and where has Richtofen sent us? To prison. He's locked us up indefinitely. So if the Forsaken wasn't lying, we could potentially have seen what has or will happen to the crew. Weaver, Strauss, Gray, and Carver. If the Forsaken wasn't lying, they should be dead. Again, in the back of my mind, Weaver was a pretty big character, not only in Zombies but the whole Black Ops universe. Gray, Carver and Strauss, not so much. If it was just them that we saw dead in the prison cell, I would believe it, but Weaver, it kind of has me thinking maybe this is something that will happen, but somehow we might be able to change it because the characters have seen it, they were shown it by the Forsaken. Maybe they can stop that from happening now. And the final few things we are asking, what's going to happen to the Forsaken now that he's contained? We don't know. Some people believe that he's been dropped in the ocean, and the reason why Peck wants to go here, the reason why he's pointing to the ocean in Japan, is because he wants to recover this device that the Forsaken is contained in. However, if you look at exactly what Peck says, he tells us the reason why he wants to go here is because he's looking for some old friends. Even though we know Samantha isn't his old friend, they have interacted before. Peck's a very shady character, so obviously he's up to something, but maybe he's looking for a way to help Samantha escape from the Dark Ether. Maybe that's where Black Site 13 is. That's where the Requiem members are locked up. And finally, something we've heard of since the release of Mao the Totem was Project Janus. Even though we don't know what this is, Janus was a Greek god. He was known for having two faces. He was the god of gateways, passages, and when we think of gateways in the zombie storyline, we think of a gateway to Argotha, potentially the Dark Ether. So could Project Janus have something to do with that? Maybe. Right now it's all speculation, we really don't know anything about it, but that leaves a ton of possibilities as to where the storyline could begin and head towards in Treyarch's next game in 2023. Is Kravchenko still alive? What's going to happen to the Forsaken now he's contained? Are our members of Requiem dead? Weaver and the rest? Is Samantha dead in the Dark Ether? What or who is Dr. Peck looking for? And what is Eddie's grand plan? Usually at the end of every Treyarch game, we are either given a conclusion or one question that we are left asking for the next game, but with Black Ops Cold War, there are multiple questions and multiple routes they could go down for the continuation of the Dark Ether story. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed the video today. If you have, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.